and welcome to the M.B.Om podcast, where you'll learn to master the business of yoga. M.B.Om is a proud part of the Wander Barn Podcast Network, and I'm your host, Amanda Kingsmith. I'm a 500-hour registered yoga teacher, a yoga business coach, and a total business geek. Here at M.B.Om, you'll learn everything you need to know to create a sustainable yoga business by learning from myself and guests from around the world about how they built their yoga businesses, and about how you too can become a successful yoga teacher, studio owner, and much more. All right, let's dive in. Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the M.B.Om podcast. I am really excited to be with you here today, and I am super excited for today and today's guest. Today's guest is one of my absolute favorite humans. We are joined by Renee Clair, who is a yoga and meditation teacher, as well as the founder of the Productive Wellnesspreneur. Before I tell you more about this week's episode, I want to give a little shout out to the sponsor for this week's episode of the podcast, OfferingTree. OfferingTree is your one-stop shop for all things in your yoga business, whether that be your website, your schedule, your booking and payment software, your course software, your membership platform, your video on demand platform, and much more. You can learn more about OfferingTree at offeringtree.com/MBOM. You can also get a special discount there, and I'll be telling you more about them later in this episode of the show. And like I mentioned, we'll be joined by Renee Clair for today's episode. And in this episode of the show, Renee and I are diving into how to set SMART goals for the year, how to break them down by quarter, and then how to schedule time to actually achieve them. Renee also shares some of her top tips for sticking to your time blocks, dealing with unexpected situations that come up in life and business and throw off our schedules, like getting sick or something like that, as well as how to get back to your schedule after something like that happens, or after something like taking a break in your business or taking a vacation or something like that. So this episode really builds off of last week's episode where we talked about goal setting for Q1 and 2022. So if you've not listened to last week's episode, I would definitely recommend checking it out so that you can do your 2021 reflections, do your 2022 goal setting, and then come on over to this episode so that you can really dive into how to actually schedule these goals in, how to actually get things done, and so much more. And before we get into this episode of the show, I wanted to let you know about a new partnership that I shared last week with Magic Mind. I have my Magic Mind here with me as I am sitting down to podcast, and it is my new go-to productivity drink made of all natural ingredients, adaptogens to help decrease stress, and matcha to help keep you focused. So it tastes great, it makes you feel great, and so much more. I'm going to tell you more about Magic Mind a little bit later in the episode, so stay tuned for that. But if you want to check them out, it's magicmind.co/yoga, and you can use the code YOGA20 for 20% off your order. All right, stay tuned for more about Magic Mind, and let's dive into this episode with Renee. Here she is. Renee, welcome to the podcast today. I'm excited to have you here with me.
Yay! It's always an honor to be here with you and M.B.Om. Thank you so much for having me here again.
Yeah, absolutely. It must be like over a year since I've had you on the podcast last. So I feel like lots of stuff has gone on, obviously, in the world. And then just personally, do you want to start by just giving listeners a little update on what you've been up to over the last little while?
Oh my goodness. Okay, sure. Okay, let me think back. So I have officially been the Productive Wellnesspreneur for over a year and a half, which is exciting. So that happened in, right in the middle of 2020, where a lot of us were shifting gears and pivoting. And since then, I have really found my footing within the Productive Wellnesspreneur, which has been lovely, really incorporating meditation and helping people embody productivity. I started a beautiful club membership, which I never imagined that I do, which is really neat because, I have that yoga teacher mindset where we're always thinking about like private yoga, so one-to-ones. So now I have a very specialized group, which is lovely. And then I have also just been really sitting with abundance and kind of trying to eliminate the lack that has been in my life a lot. And with that has come the beautiful opportunity I had a corporate client, and the corporate client was like, okay, Renee, we love how you help us with productivity, project management, and energy management. We want you to come full time. And so I have taken on a full-time job, and that's been really interesting, from, not wanting to take on a full-time job to taking on this beautiful opportunity that I felt called to do, while still having the Productive Wellnesspreneur on the side. So it's been a wild ride, but I am so grateful to just feel like 2021 is going really well for me overall.
Yeah, thanks for sharing all of that. And I know there's been lots of big changes, and it's always, quite a lot to go from, completely working for yourself and having like complete control over your schedule, to working on a team, working with other people, having to kind of balance other people's needs and just the expectations of when you'll be working. And then doing that while also running your business is, a whole other added challenge. So I just want to acknowledge that and say you've been doing awesome work this last bit of this year, as you've been, stepping into this new role. And I'm excited to see what's next for you in 2022. I think there's going to be some awesome stuff.
Thank you. Oh, I should probably mention what I'm doing. I'm a senior project manager. So I'm really like honing in on my craft, which, like, Amanda, is amazing, because everything I learn in my corporate settings, I take back to my clients, and it's so neat to be able to help people on a smaller scale, knowing that I can help people, like, really scale and do larger things if they want to. So that's, one of the gifts of this change.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's so related to like everything that you support yoga teachers and wellnesspreneurs with, as well, is just helping them get organized and helping them get their productivity in line. And I know it's something you've really helped me with, which has been, very beautiful and very welcomed in my business. And that brings me into where I want to take this episode today. We're recording at the end of 2021, which means we're heading into the holidays pretty soon here, which is sort of a beautiful time. And also it can be a hard time as an entrepreneur, because we have to manage taking time off in our business if we're choosing to do that. We have to manage, holiday times, family time, all of that type of stuff. And then we come back into the new year, and I feel like life always feels like a bit chaotic after we've had holidays or gone through changes. And so I'd really love to dive in with you, just how we kind of navigate these like cycles in our lives. And I think that this is, so appropriate, since you've kind of in your Q4 for 2021 gone through like a big like cycle change, if that makes sense.
It totally does. I'm just sitting in complete awareness, and just utter awe of how life is always, it's just like yoga. It's always a balance, and it's always like meditation. It's just like coming back to finding stillness, like coming back to finding that equilibrium that feels right for you in your journey, and finding the contentedness at any given moment and defining what that means for you. So this is such an awesome like topic. Like as I started my Q4, I really had to prep ahead, because the company that I work for put on a all-day 3-day event over a weekend. And as you know, Amanda, I'm always like, don't work on the weekends, or if you do work during the week, take 2 days off. So I had to actually work the entire week, then over the weekend, and then some days following before I got a day off. And I haven't done that in ages. So I really had to look at the things that I teach about, which are time management and boundaries. But the one thing that I'm really beginning to hone in on, which is so important, is energy management.
Oh, I love that. Can we dive into like energy management a little bit more and talk about like what that is and how we how we utilize it?
Yes. So I know, Amanda, we share this in common. We're always, I'm a type A, as you know, in the psychology world, type A people are those people that are always planning, always trying to set almost like very strict boundaries in their life around their time and their efforts, and always achieving, right? So like there's always something to get to next, rather than, taking a moment to pause and just breathe and accept the success in any given moment, right? So I'm a recovering type A, I'm a recovering perfectionist. And but one of the things that I've learned over time and gently through yoga and meditation is this concept of energy management. So energy management, in my opinion, or in my own definition, my own words, is just kind of always being aware of how you feel, of how your body feels, your energy level, emotional state, all the things in any given moment, and just figuring out how to say, kind of be the observer of your own, your own body, your own emotions, and saying, oh, okay, that's interesting. You know what? I'm feeling tired. I should check in with myself. What do I need? Oh, I need to ask if I can get off of work an hour early to just go and breathe or do my grocery shopping. Or, you know what? I am going to have a hard week. I'm feeling really anxious because I haven't grocery shopped. Okay, body and mind, what are the things that I can do to help my energy and help myself along in the near future, which is, the week ahead? Oh, I can buy groceries ahead of time or pre-made meals or something like that. So is that helpful, Amanda, around like energy management, like a little bit of a definition and kind of how to describe it?
Yeah, for sure. That definitely makes sense. And so for us in our businesses, I think that energy management is like particularly appropriate to talk about when it comes to like the holiday season and post-holiday season. Because I think for a lot of us, it's like, the holidays aren't always like rejuvenating. There's a lot of, often family events and social pressures and chaoses and stuff like that. And then we have the new year. And I think that a lot of us put on pressure for ourselves to really like hit the ground running when January hits. And so it's like, January 2022, we've got all these goals that we want to reach. We don't want to like leave our Q1 goals till the end of Q1. How do we kind of come out of the holidays or come out of these busy seasons? If somebody's maybe listening to this at another time of the year, come out of these busy seasons and really like manage our energy.
Oh, I love that question. Is it okay before talking about Q1 to kind of back up a little bit to Q4?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, awesome. So one of the things that I learned early on for myself that I see happen with my clients who are therapists and yoga teachers is that you set a Q4 goal, and if you're like, what in the world is Q4? If you're starting to feel shame around that, don't feel shame, or don't feel judgment on yourself. Just take a deep breath, practice ahimsa, and Q4 is your fourth quarter. So the Q stands for quarter, and it's when you can look at your goals throughout the year as well as like your financial goals. So most people who, if they are aware of setting goals, they set one last goal for the last bit. And Q4 is defined, the way that I like to guide people is October, November, and December. So December 31st is when you'd be done with your goal. Most people come to me and they're like, okay, I'm stressing out. I have this huge goal that I want to accomplish before the end of the year. And they're kind of, beating themselves up because they didn't accomplish like what they had planned for their, annual goal. And I say, wait, take a minute, take a breath. This is your life. And let's kind of look at what's happening here in the last 3 months. And what people, I feel, they put all this pressure on themselves to achieve, but life is happening. And especially at the end of the year, there are so many holidays, Amanda, right? At the end of the year for, all cultures, so and then people want to spend time, people are off. And I find that people burn out before Q4 is even done. I know myself, I just spent, before we got on this call together, and I was like doing some holiday Christmas shopping, for presents. So one of the things that I highly suggest to people is looking at the time that you want off, or knowing and being aware of when you're having visitors, and just removing that time away from the time that you want to spend achieving your goal, not only doing the things that you have to do for work. And then, once you kind of get situated there, pace yourself and maybe release some pressure, or maybe shorten or create a smaller goal and say, okay, I did the best I could for this year. Let's move into the next year. And you can carry over anything that you didn't accomplish. And, time is such an arbitrary thing, right? It's man or woman made, this concept of time, right? Which is interesting because for some reason we tell ourselves we have to get this thing done by December 31st. No, you don't. It's your life. You can just carry it over, and just, time is this continuum, which is beautiful. And so, Amanda, going, to your question of Q1, you can, really just sit and journal, think about how your previous year went, think about what went well, think about what you felt really aligned with. And then that's what I encourage people to do, is when you set goals that you're aligned with, your energy, your vibes just go up. You can't help but feel excited and energized to work on things that really feel aligned. What do you think about that, Amanda?
Yeah, no, I love that. And I think it is very much Q4 is pretty intense. It's kind of like you've got Halloween. If you're in the US, you've got Thanksgiving, and then we've got Christmas and New Year's. There's always so much going on. And I think it's so easy for us to we kind of have this, we put a lot of meaning in our society around the new year and around the change of year, which I think is kind of an interesting thing in general. But it's kind of oh, I need to finish all these things before I close out the year. And I mean, the new year is so arbitrary, right? It's just the change between numbers. And for any other quarter in the year, between Q1 or Q2, for example, if you don't finish your goals in Q1, you're not beating yourself up. You're okay, how can I reframe Q2 and bring my goals, carry my goals over? And I feel we kind of treat the end of the year a little bit differently, which is kind of a strange sort of thing. And then we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to really hit the ground running with the new year. And I think that can just be a little bit challenging when it comes to what we're talking about with, time management, with energy management, all of that type of stuff.
Yes, exactly. It's a beautiful thing to have discipline, right? That's why we, do yoga. That's why we meditate. We are introducing and practicing this beautiful discipline, which brings us, ultimately to stillness and contentment. And so there is something to be said about setting goals and doing time management and doing my favorite thing in the world, time blocking, and bullet journaling. There's so much value in doing these things. But also allowing, for change to happen, right? Sometimes we can't do yoga or meditate when we want to, or sometimes we miss a day. But as long as we come back to these things that provide us with, I say that these things kind of tap into your root chakra and help you ground down, provide that stability moving forward. It can be so beautiful. And then once you can, just find gentle stability, gentle structure, then you can move into, finding this place of creativity that really works for you. So it's such a big balance, but I think that that's also exciting, if we can just take this place of curiosity of any given moment and always trying to bring ourselves back to awareness of what we have going on, what we hope to achieve. Just through that awareness itself, you can't help but achieve. You can't help but manifest all the things that you want to, For example, actually, I hope this is okay to share, Amanda. In 2020, before we knew what was happening, I had this beautiful full moon meditation, this journaling exercise I did, and it just dawned on me that I wanted to create stability and purchase my own home. And so I was like, you know what? Let me get all my goals together. And I'm going to set a goal of purchasing a home in 2023. And so every move that I've made since then has been small. And, even to my own eyes, I'm like, oh, gosh, like, am I even going to get there? Like, how am I going to save up for a down payment? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Well, the beautiful news, everybody, is that I, reconnected with an amazing man, and we are purchasing a home together, and that will happen in 2022. So just going on that mission, following my dreams, following my goals, taking these steps, even if my goals shift, ultimately got me to my big dream, my big goal.
Yeah, no, I love that you shared that. And I think that that's such a beautiful example of, setting this like really big goal and just working towards it, like, month by month, putting money away and achieving it a year early, which is absolutely amazing. And being able to do it with somebody that you really care about, which is an even more beautiful part of that. So I think that that's amazing. And I'm so excited for you. And I can't wait to come visit you in your new home.
Thank you. And I hope that that's helpful, just because, I hope to use myself as an example. So that way, everybody can hear that, even though I'm the productivity queen, I'm still always like realigning and regrouping. And sometimes I surprise even myself.
Yeah, absolutely. And so kind of on that note, I'd love to hear a little bit about maybe your process for, setting up goals and whatnot for the year, because, this will go out at the start of 2022. I think a lot of people will be working with what they want to achieve for the year. And, how do we kind of set goals for the year and then follow through with them while, still doing all the day-to-day tasks that we need to do?
It's like, can we just stop doing work and just achieve all our goals?
Right.
I'm like, oh gosh, I tried. It didn't work. Okay. Thank you for asking this. I love it. I love guiding people, if they can, to start thinking about what they want to do for the next year in December. But don't worry. I know that everybody's listening to this in January. And if that's you, don't worry. Everything is fine. You can set goals whenever your heart desires. I've helped people set, annual goals in June, so anything is possible. So what is really great that I love, which I hope everybody appreciates, is just setting up kind of what I call the, some CEO time blocking, right? So CEO time block. And, just like maybe carving 2 to 4 hours of your time and create like a little ceremony, right? Get your favorite cup of tea or coffee or cacao, right? Put on some really lovely music. I like to listen to binaural beats. Wear like comfy clothes. I like to sometimes put on like a white scarf. It makes me feel like regal and goddess-like, right? And then meditate. Just clear your mind. Just let it all go. Right now, I'm guiding my clients to do a winter solstice meditation, which is really perfect for coming into the new year, letting go of what doesn't serve you, and finding what did feel aligned in the previous year and seeing if you can harness that. But you can start really with anywhere. So once you're done with your meditation, just take paper to pen. There is something magnificent when it comes to mind-body connection, as I'm sure you already know. So pen to paper is definitely where it's at. And ask yourself, what worked well this, past 3 months, the past year, what didn't, where did you feel most successful? Is there anything that you didn't finish that you want to carry over into the new year? Gosh, there's so many other questions, but the main thing is to look over all your responses and go to where you feel aligned, go to where your strengths are. That's going to be your happy place. And then just sit with, what it is that it's almost like your san culpa, right? Which is your deepest heart's desire. Look there deep inside your heart to see what it is that you want, and listen for that voice that comes up that says, you don't deserve that. You're not good enough for that. That's never going to happen. Go there, go to that place, let those voices just be there and maybe let them like kind of simmer out to the side. That's where you want to take your journey. And it's a little tough, but if you can lean in and get clear, then you can make those steps. And maybe, it's a big goal, like buying a house. And I had to get my finances together the first year I was doing this in 2020 to get there. But you can, then examine your goal and then break it down. See if you can break it down into smaller chunks that might be per year. And maybe you'll find a chunk where you can divide it up into 4 pieces. And then those can be your quarterly goals. And when you set your quarterly goals, I encourage you to really make them SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, aligned, realistic, and timely.
If you've been teaching free yoga classes for a while, it might be time to start charging. I know when you hear that, you might cringe a little bit inside. It can be super scary to take the leap to charging for your yoga classes. But here's a way that you can bridge the gap and transition from teaching free to paid classes. And it keeps your yoga classes accessible for everyone. If you're teaching free classes, I recommend giving people the option to pay you. This is really easy to set up in OfferingTree. OfferingTree is the website and software platform I recommend to anyone who's looking to grow their yoga or wellness business. With OfferingTree, you can offer both donation-based and sliding scale payment options for your yoga classes. That means that your students can choose an amount that feels right for them or pick from a few different pricing options that you've laid out. Instead of receiving random PayPal or Venmo deposits as donations for your free classes, now everything is in one place with OfferingTree. The best part about this is that it's super, super easy to set up and you can do it right from the same place where you enter your regular price. So whether your class is going to be free, $20, or you want to set sliding scale, it is super, super easy to set up. I'm partnering with OfferingTree to offer a special discount to you, my listeners. If you're looking for a scheduling tool or website that's easy enough for you to set up yourself, go to offeringtree.com/M.B.O for a 15% discount off 1 year of OfferingTree or 15% off the first 3 months. Once again, that's offeringtree.com/M.B.O. All right, now back to the episode.
Amazing. Thank you for all of that. And I kind of have like a big sort of vague question, so we can see how that goes. But I'm curious, okay, so if somebody has a goal, like your house example, obviously that's one where we're like, okay, over a couple of years, I'm going to do this. I'm going to need X amount of money. But say if somebody's working on stuff that's a bit more harder to make tangible, what are some of your tips for actually honing in on our goals, I guess you could say? Because I think sometimes we know what we want, right? It's I want to make more money, or I want to have more yoga students come to my classes, or I want to host more workshops this year. But those can be very vague goals, right? How do we kind of go from these vague goals to these more specific goals?
That's such a good question. I find it a little difficult to just kind of, offer tips in this area, because for me, each person's goal is so specific and unique. And so if that's you, the first thing I recommend is definitely talking with a coach, someone like Amanda. She is an amazing business coach, you all. Or someone like me, or even a life coach or a mentor, or maybe even a friend, just so they can be your sounding board, provide you with support. Maybe they might recognize something in you or within you that you didn't know that you wanted or could possibly set as a goal. So, okay. So I think that's the first tip. Maybe, oh gosh, okay. This is so amazing, Amanda. Good question. Second tip is, I know that we're always looking for something specific, and I'm guilty of this. I can get a little too specific without really tapping back into what's most important in my life, right? So if I can kind of take myself out of the money mindset, which sometimes comes from this place of lack that we deal with, right? And not trusting that financial energy will come back to us. But if we can kind of reframe our goals and think more of how do we want to make an impact on this planet? Where can I utilize my gifts? Where can I get my word out? Where can I, share this so that people can receive my gift of yoga or meditation, and then I can receive financial exchange in return? I think that those questions might help you to get a little more specific of how to do it. Is that helpful, Amanda?
Yeah, definitely. And I like the idea of, just kind of looking at what we want and then getting a bit more specific with it. Cause I think that, and bouncing it off somebody. Cause I think that when you say like, hey, I want more money, I want to make more money in 2022, we have a concept in our head of what that looks like, right? Because we have a baseline that we're going off of. Like, I know how much money I made in 2021. So I probably have an understanding of what making more money means to me and what, success in that means to me. But to you, like, if I'm like, hey, I have a goal of making more money, you're probably going to be like, well, that's pretty vague. Like, how much more money do you want to make? Like, what's going to feel good for you, et cetera. So I think that that's a really helpful tip.
May I use your example as maybe when to coach a little bit? Okay. So, in the event of like, I want to make more money, I love that. Like, Amanda, like, well, what are the things that you would like to focus on? Oh, I have a dusty yoga video that I could clean up, polish up, make it really nice. And then, I know that I have to put it on a platform of some sort and connect it. There's lots of things you could do. So then, kind of once you get a little more specific, as Amanda was saying, then you can say, oh, well, one of my goals is to clean up this video and get it ready so then I can promote it and market it in Q2. So then once you do that, it's kind of like everything falls into place. In order to get clear, though, sometimes it's hard if you're brand new to marketing, if you're brand new to sales, which I know are big words. And the sales one is like a scary word. Gosh, it was so scary for me for years. It helps to write down everything that you might want to do. So, with a big goal, like I want to make more money. Well, how and why, and just like journal, get it all out, and then start looking for the bigger pieces. Like, oh, I want to sell a yoga video. And then you can be like, oh, that's really, big, but that's something I could achieve in 3 months. Or, if it's like, oh, I need to edit this email. That's a task. And so you could probably say, oh, realistically, that could take me an hour. So that wouldn't make sense as a quarterly goal. Is that helpful, Amanda, or did I get way too specific?
No, I like that because it's kind of like even taking what I said and being more specific about it. Because it's like the goal of making, like, say you want to make $10,000 more a year, or let's use 12,000 because that's just going to be easier math. That's like $1,000 more per month. It's like, then we have to kind of look at like, how are we actually going to do this? Because yes, the saying like, I have a goal of making $1,000 more per month this year is certainly like a smart goal, right? Like it's got all of those elements to it, but the making money portion of it is kind of an interesting one because it's like, okay, well, what are we actually doing every single day to kind of get us towards this goal? And I think there has to be other sort of elements and pieces within that.
Right. And it takes practice. It takes a while to get to know what's a good annual goal, what's a quarterly goal, and what's a project and what's a task. And it takes patience to actually sit down and carve out time to plan a little bit ahead. And when you plan, you're not going to know everything that comes up, but you can at least get down the things that you know and spread them out over a period of time. So oftentimes I work with people and they, want to do everything in a week. And I'm like, okay, but, well, can you estimate for me how long you think this might take you or how long this might take you? And, we all have lives. We have, we're hanging out with our partners, our animals, our family, our friends. We're teaching, we're guiding, we're working, we're doing so much. We're trying to sleep, we're trying to practice self-care. And so realistically, I see maybe people being able to carve out anywhere from like 2 to 8 hours a week to pursue their goals. And so I try to help clients kind of gain some visibility into their schedule, which, kind of bring you back to time blocking, which I love. You can, realistically and get super clear about how much time you have in your schedule to really focus on this. And it's actually beautiful if you can carve out space to take it a little bit at a time, to really practice ahimsa, let yourself off the hook and enjoy the journey of achieving your goals rather than staying in fight or flight, and keeping your sympathetic nervous system like high all the time. It's like terrible for your adrenals. It's terrible for your liver. I speak from experience. So being gentle with yourself and going slowly to achieve your goals is where it's at. Slow and steady wins the race here. Of course, there are some days, sometimes when you just need to pump something out. But if you have moments like that, then you return back to energy management. Okay, I just pushed myself to do something incredible in a short amount of time and I'm exhausted. What do I need to do now? Do I take a few days off? Do I eat really well? Do I get myself a massage? Okay, I'm done with my ramble.
No, that's great. And I love that you brought it back to time blocking too, because I wanted to loop back around to that a little bit, because I feel like, that's such a key part in actually like achieving the things that we want to achieve. And I know you mentioned earlier having that CEO time block where we can actually sit down and work on these projects and that type of thing. And, one thing I'd love to pick your brain about is just tips for how we actually like stick to these time blocks, because I think that especially when it comes to like the beginning of the year, a lot of us are really excited. We're really keen. We're like rearing to go. We're stoked on our goals. And, then we get like a month into the year and something happens, like, we have to schedule a call during one of our time blocks, or we get sick or something like that. And we kind of get thrown off a little bit, like how do we kind of recalibrate from that? How do we make sure we actually stick to our time blocks, all of that good stuff?
Sure. Oh, I love this. Thank you for asking this. I call it pivoting gracefully. So the very first tip is to remember your why. Why is it important to time block? Why is it important to gently follow your schedule? What is your why for it, right? For me, it's to remember that if I don't take care of myself, I can't really help others achieve their goals. And for me, that's like the bane of my existence. I derive so much joy from helping others achieve their dreams. It's just like incredible, whether that's through yoga, through meditation, or through productivity. And, so what is your why? Tip number 2. So when you are dealing with something unexpected, right? Like you have to take an appointment, go to the doctor, take your kid to the doctor. There's a lot of that going on right now. Or you just decide that you want to take on a client, but it's impacting another part of your schedule, like your lunch hour or your marketing time to be creative, to do your social media or to do your newsletter or something like that. The first step is to be, in a state of awareness. So you just kind of, plowed through and that's okay. We do that sometimes, but like after the fact, it's okay to take a breather and say, well, let me come back to my schedule and let me play Tetris, right? Let me take this other time that I had planned either for my lunch or marketing, and let me see if I can swap it out, if I can get rid of it, or I can trade it with something else. So that is my second tip, because you are, the king or queen of your schedule and you can do whatever you want. However, the minute that you start to forget and let go of that awareness of your own self-care or your own business needs, it becomes this domino effect. And that's what's important, is to kind of get ahead of that before, you look back and you're like, I'm burnt out now because I got back into that same pattern. And tip number 3, which I love, is having an accountability partner, whether that's someone in your peer group. I have a beautiful mastermind of amazing ladies that I get to check in with and almost come to my confessional. I'm like, I did this, and they help me get back on track. I also have a life coach that I work with. And so I think it's so important to have a support system for when you do find yourself falling back into those patterns or going against the things that you know are so valuable and that make you the most incredible person that you are.
As yoga teachers and business owners, we are often juggling a million things at once. So productivity and efficiency is super important. That's why I am very excited to be partnering with Magic Mind. Magic Mind is a productivity drink that is made of all natural ingredients and has adaptogens to help decrease stress, nootropics that boost blood flow, and matcha to help keep you focused. I am super sensitive to caffeine, which means that I can't pound coffee all day to stay energized and productive, and that's one of the reasons that I love Magic Mind. There's minimal caffeine, so you can get energized without getting the caffeine jitters and then the caffeine crash. Whether you're someone that needs a boost of productivity in the mornings or the afternoons, Magic Mind is the perfect drink. I love to use Magic Mind for a quick pick-me-up during the afternoon leg, and I love to make it as a matcha latte. It's healthy, it tastes great, and it helps me get into my flow state. If you'd like to experience the benefits of increased productivity and mental energy, you can get Magic Mind at magicmind.co/yoga and use code YOGA20 for 20% off. Once again, that's www.magicmind.co/yoga and use the code YOGA20 for 20% off.
Yeah, thanks for sharing those. I think those are really great tips. And I think it's so easy when we kind of like fall off the wagon, I guess you could say, to like start beating ourselves up. And I feel like being compassionate to the fact that we're like human beings living this like human life and that things are going to come up. And I think that that's almost like how we have to go into planning this stuff, is understanding like, yes, I can have the most like perfect schedule on paper, but you never know what's going to come up from like, getting sick, needing to go to the doctor, taking your kid to the doctor, global pandemic, there's all sorts of things that can happen. And we have to be able to kind of be sort of prepared for that. So I think that those tips are very helpful. So thanks for that.
You're welcome. And you're right. I want to piggyback off of what you said again, and that, there's the discipline, like with our meditation yoga practice, but then with discipline comes flexibility, right? Like your mind and body can't help but get limber. And that's what life is about, is allowing room for the unexpected and just balancing, your pitta, kapha, and vata, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think this has been like very apparent for me. I'm in the process of, preparing for maternity leave and stuff like that. And, I got hit with this like awful cold over the last couple of weeks and just really had to, pivot my schedule. And I know you were in a similar boat. I think we were sick right around the same time, where it's just like there's nothing you can do about it, right? You can sit in bed and you can be grumpy about the fact that your nose is running and that you're tired and that you're not doing the things that you plan to do. And you're missing your, for me, I'm like, I'm missing my maternity leave time block. This is so like an important time for me. I need to get this stuff done before baby comes. Or it's like, I can just take care of myself to the best of my ability so that when I feel better, I'm back 100%. And I think those things are really hard for us, because it's like, we kind of like get off the horse, and it's like, we have to get back on the horse afterwards. And I think that's where we can get like really thrown off our routines and stuff.
Yes. Oh, you bring up an excellent point. So that's another side. So of energy management is after a holiday, right? Or after some time off, or after when we're sick, or after, the time when we realize we're burnt out and we need some time off. It's important. I haven't heard anybody speak about this, but I have one client who always tells me, she's like, Renee, after I've had 2 weeks off, I need to go back into my work slowly. How do I do that? And so I want to invite everybody to really give themselves space for a week or two, into the new year to, warm up slowly, like warm up coming back to your routine. Like it's okay to eat whatever you want to and not go to sleep and not exercise, all that stuff. It's totally okay. And it's even more okay to come back to routine slowly, to return back to your practice slowly. You do not have to do anything or everything overnight. You don't have to conquer the world. You don't have to, take on an hour and a half yoga practice after you haven't done yoga for 2 weeks. You were still a yoga teacher. You're still, practicing yoga no matter what, by just, living the values and enjoying life. That is something that, I'm speaking because I'm also telling myself that it's so important to enjoy life and just, and enjoy the ride.
Yeah, I think that that's something that's like such a good reminder for me, because I feel like I'm very much that type of person. And I know this has just happened to me because I had that example of, getting sick unexpectedly and then needing to, feeling like, oh, I need to like make up time almost. And I think that I'm also that type of person. Like after a vacation, I'm like, I get back and then I'm like, okay, I need to hit the ground running on Monday. And it's so easy to like burn yourself out, especially if you have been offline, because, we've been running at a different pace. We've been doing something different. And, it's easy to kind of like sit down at your computer and be like, okay, I need to do all the things. And then maybe not feel that spark of motivation. And I love the idea of like giving yourself a chance to kind of ease back into things, especially after a holiday or after a period away, or after maybe you've gone through like a big shift or something like that, and you're kind of getting back into it. And I think it makes sense from the perspective of like a yoga practice or a workout. Like as yoga teachers, I think we can really relate to, like, if you had a yoga student, for example, that was practicing with you, let's say in like 2019, and they came back to you and they're like, I'm ready to get back into my practice. I'm committing to like an hour and a half a day. You'd probably be like, whoa, you haven't practiced yoga for like 2 years. Like, why don't we start with, 10, 15 minutes a day and like build that up? Or maybe let's start with like an hour and a half, like 3 times a week, and then work up to every day again. Like you're not going to be in the same place you were, 2 years ago with your practice. And I think that applying that to our work life is something that makes a lot of sense to me as well.
Yes, exactly. And that's where I think the missing link is that, where our lives, every facet of our lives are interconnected. And it's so important to bring what we've learned and discovered from yoga, from meditation, and bring that into our relationships, bring that into our work lives. And it's really eye-opening, to start like honing in on that, and just asking yourself, where can I, practice more compassion for myself within my business? We're all, I'm sure most of us are trying to start up our businesses or have started up our businesses, and I know we're all go-getters, but it's really nice to be able to start to really tame the ego, over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the last thing I want to pick your brain about is I think we've covered so much good stuff to kind of set people up for success with, the start of the year and just getting them, into their goals and into what they want to achieve this year, and particularly for Q1. Let's say we're in a situation where it's like the end of Q1. So that is, I think, end of March. And maybe we haven't achieved all the goals that we wanted to achieve. What are some of your tips or like pieces of advice for, I guess, like reframing Q2 or shifting Q2? So we've got this like whole year planned out and we've got these other goals we want to work on, but we haven't quite finished, the things we wanted to do in Q1 because we're being, beautiful humans that are being compassionate and graceful with ourselves. How do we kind of like readjust for this?
I love that. And it always happens. Even the best
always.
Even the best of us, we are our best laid plans, right? There's a song that comes to mind, and I can't remember the name of it or who sings it right now, but the tune is, hold on, loosely, but don't let go, And I think it's like this guy talking about his girlfriend, like on the motorcycle with him, but it's also talking about relationships in life. So that comes to mind, as far as like looking at your goals, like hold on loosely to your goal, but then, and don't let go of it. So it's kind of like this balance. So looking at your Q1 goal, I would say first step is to celebrate what you did accomplish, whether that was realizing that things came up and you had to set the goal aside to recalibrate and focus on something else that you didn't expect was a priority. That's huge, or maybe you achieve smaller goals, and that there's something to be said for that, because you can have the best intentions of, I'm going to get a website up, but then you realize you have to learn code or something, So there's always ways to celebrate, and it makes life so much more fun. And then look at the goal, look at what you didn't finish, and check in with yourself and say, is this something I still want to pursue? If yes, what are the things that I want to carry over into Q2? How do I want to shape this? And most importantly, what I want to work on in Q2, does that align with my overarching goal for the year? Does that align with my 2022 goal?
Yeah, I think that that's a good piece of advice, is just kind of looking at like adapting. And I love the idea of like celebrating what you did do first, because I think that for a lot of us, it's really natural to kind of like criticize ourselves or focus on like the things that we didn't do. But, obviously you've done a lot in that time, and sure, it's easy to focus on like what didn't get done. But I like the idea of like starting by, what did I do? Like, what was really awesome? What can I celebrate about this? And then, okay, how can I readjust for, the next quarter of the year? And I also really like how your approach is always looking at like, does this still serve me? Which kind of comes back to what we were talking about with that big why, like understanding kind of your bigger why and purpose. And like, is this still, a part of that? Because I think that also one thing we have to keep in mind with goal setting and with, productivity and time management and all this stuff that we're talking about is that it's so easy to get caught up in like the shoulds, like I should be doing this, I should be doing this, and really connecting to like why we actually want to do something if it serves us, I think is really important.
Yes. Amen.
Amazing. Well, I feel like we've come pretty full circle with this. We've covered a lot of good stuff today. Is there anything else you want to share that's kind of related to this topic, or just any final words of advice or pieces of wisdom for somebody who's kind of getting ready to set themselves up for the year?
I would say if it's your first time setting an annual goal and quarterly goals, like just feel into it, be gentle and have fun. The second thing that I would say is if you're a little seasoned with setting goals, it might be time to see how your goals can be integrated with financial goals. That is one thing that I see clients, almost not wanting to do, or almost wanting to turn a blind eye to. And there is something beautiful about getting familiar with financial exchange of energy, as I call it, or money, and moving through personal blocks around that, so you can continue to grow and scale your business in a way that totally works for you. And then last but not least, I hope that you have a beautiful 2022, and ride the waves and always recalibrate to what your heart desires at any given moment.
Beautiful. I feel like that's like the perfect place to wrap up. And I love all of that and everything you shared, and especially the recalibration piece with your heart. I think that's really lovely and worded very beautifully. So thank you for that. And I know you have a ton of resources out there. Can you share with people where they can go to find you, work with you, just share some of the goodness that you have going on for 2022?
Yes. So I would love for you to come and find me on my website. It is www.renee-clair.com. I'm sure Amanda will have some fun notes for you with that on there. I have a really neat video that are my favorite tips for productivity. And I'll also send you my awesome time blocking sheet and guide to like really help you to begin to time block. And I'm here always if you have questions. And one of the things I'm doing right now to pivot gracefully, since I was sick and working a lot, is I'm taking a little bit of a break from Instagram, but Instagram really is my happy place. I will be back on in 2022, and you can find me at the Productive WP. Come hang out. You can totally send me a message. I will respond. I love doing stories. I love providing info to help you and just inspire you. So come hang out with me.
Amazing. Yeah, we'll definitely make sure there's links to all of that goodness, and hopefully people go check out all of the great freebies and resources and stuff that you have, or all the good stuff. And yeah, thank you for your time today, Renee. This has been really great.
I always love talking to you, Amanda. Thank you for having me on M.B.Om.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
All right, friends, I hope that you enjoyed that episode of the podcast with Renee Clair. I know I always love getting to chat with her. She's become a very dear friend to me over the last couple of years, and I've also had the privilege of working with her quite closely, and it's been so helpful for me in my business. So if you are looking for more tips on productivity, on scheduling, on building a schedule that actually works for you, setting boundaries, or maybe you're just coming from the holiday season and having a hard time getting back into it, or having a hard time setting up a schedule that actually gives you the balance of working on your day-to-day business plus, working on your goals and your bigger tasks and that type of thing, I would definitely recommend checking out Renee. She's got some amazing free resources. She also has the executive club that I have been a part of for the last couple of months that has been really amazing. It's a small group of people who get together about once a month to just discuss different productivity tools and tactics. And it's been so helpful for me through Q4 as I was planning my maternity leave and getting everything ready to go offline with baby. So make sure you're checking out Renee and everything she's up to and reaching out if you do need that support. A huge thank you to the sponsors for today's episode, OfferingTree and Magic Mind. Make sure you check them out, offeringtree.com/M.B.Om and magicmind.co/yoga. And make sure you use the code YOGA20 to get 20% off your order. Thanks so much for listening, and I will see you next week. Bye for now.